This is Everyday Spirituality with Connect That Faith. I am Debbie Bronkema, and I'm here today with Andrea Garbarini. So, Andrea, I know that you got into filmmaking after being a nurse, but I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about that story, because it seems like it's an interesting journey to have made.
All right. Well, I was always interested in the visual arts. I love to take photos, and I find the visual arts compelling. I mean, for me, I'm a visual person, and I've always been drawn to documentaries, stories, on a visual screen. So after September 11th, I had lost my husband. I decided to. I was compelled to want to tell the story about the good that came out of the bad. I've been a nurse for 17 years. I had two small children. I left my job as a nurse because I really had to take care of my kids, and things were complicated. Yeah. And I wanted to find a way emotionally to start healing and to tell the stories of these brave families and women that I had met on that journey of September 11th. Now, have I ever been to film school? No. Was this a real stretch? Yes. I had friends that were filmmakers, and I hounded them till they agreed to help me make this film. And I always say, my saying in life is leap and the net will appear. And that's basically what I did. I leapt, and I leaped, and the net appeared. And I had, my friends helped me make this movie. And I was compelled to tell stories. And I think that's what really made me do what I did, to tell a story in a visual platform.
And I love that it was part of your own healing and healing for all the people whose stories you told.
Yes.
To be able to say, everybody's story didn't end on that day. This is what happened next. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that, it was such a traumatic event for the country, the world, and for my family and the families that I know, that I felt that I wanted some good to come out of this in a way that, kind of, like you just said, the story really didn't end there. The story kind of began there, or continued, we'll say. I just made another film recently called From Beacon to the Border, about a bunch of grandmothers that went from Beacon, New York to McAllen, Texas, to protest the separation of families under the Trump administration. And now I'm working on another film.
That's great. That's great. So what is it about filmmaking, do you think? Is it the storytelling or the listening to people's stories, or what is it that has really kind of grabbed at you?
I think it's basically what you just said. The story is everything in a film, and that is the challenge when you decide to make something. You really have to have a storyline. From the Granny movie that I did, the Grannies Respond group, following the grandmothers, that was somewhat of an obvious story. It was from point A to point B and what went on in between. From the Ground Up was a story of women after 9/11 doing amazing things with what was dealt to them. I think that you do get addicted to almost, people are so fascinating to me. Human beings have stories, just being in what you do for a living. And everyone can tell a story, and everyone has a story. And I think that that's what has drawn me into it. And also being able to touch people in a large group. If you have a group of people in a room and you show them a film, at least the conversation is sparked, and you can get a point across with groups of people, and that's what I enjoy. Like the film that I'm doing right now, I'm still working on trying to figure out the storyline, and that's the challenge. It's all about the story, and
Interesting. So do you get like a question in your mind and that starts the process, and then the story sort of reveals itself, or
Well,
how? Yeah.
with documentary film, I think the thing you got to remember too is what you start with isn't always what you're going to end with.
Okay.
And that's, I think, what you have to be open to the possibilities. This film that I'm trying to work on right now is about what the flag means to Americans right now. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to get back together in the division that we we're a very divided country right now. Mm-hmm. How is that going to play out? And so that was the question I kind of started with. Okay. And we're on a journey right now. I'm doing this movie with Shane McGaffey, and things are changing a little bit. You know, and things emerge as you go along. I mean, we happened to be down at the Washington on January 6th, interviewing people and asking people at the Trump rallies that question, because I need to get both sides. Right. And look what happened there.
Right. That must have been, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Was it a terrifying experience? What was it like for you to be there when that broke out?
Well, we started out just interviewing people in the at the rally, and to be fair and honest, most people at the rally were, I've been to a few Trump rallies, and they often say that our rallies are peaceful. You know, they pride themselves in peaceful rallies where there's a lot of law and order. And where we were at the time near the Washington Monument, I don't think we ever felt in danger of anything. It's when Trump suggested everybody go to the Capitol that everybody started leaving and walking towards the Capitol. And I would say the mood changed then, but even then, I don't think Shane and I ever felt in danger. It was, you got to be careful on how you, I was there just to ask those questions and try to stay neutral, which is a challenge. But things were getting a little heated as we walked towards the Capitol.
Were people still willing to talk to you at that point, or did they? Yeah, did your camera make them uncomfortable, or what did you think?
People were talking to me. I always said to them that the reason I'm doing this is to get both sides of the story. That I want to know how we're going to fix this country right now, and what did the flag? What's the flag mean to you? Because at the Trump rallies, people are draped in flags. They're wrapped in flags. There's flags on everything, and I find that I found that very interesting. And that's why I kind of started this, because I felt like the flag was being co-opted, sort of.
So do you find that kind of creativity that it takes to listen to people and find the story, does that fill you up? Does that make you exhausted? What does that do in your own spiritual journey?
Well, I think it makes me be a better listener.
Okay.
And I think that being a better listener is the key to really all relationships and anything that we do, whether it's telling a story in a movie or in your own personal relationships. Right. I think everybody wants to be heard, and if you think in those terms where, I always say in my head, I actually, Oprah had said this once, and I just loved what she said, that everybody's looking for these three things: to be seen, to be heard, and what they just said is important to you. And I think that's really the key with documentary films, or with anything we do, especially a documentary. You really need to listen. Yeah. With this particular film that I'm trying to do, I don't want this to be just like gasoline poured on the fire right now. I want this to be a healing situation. I don't know exactly how that's going to happen just yet, and I'm still struggling with trying to figure out the storyline and everything, but the important thing to me is that, yes, I think that I'm hoping we can all come together to a certain degree and at least listen to each other. Right. When it comes to both sides of this conflict. And I think people do appreciate that. Some people, aren't going to want to have that space or be in that space. But I think we all want it. This is a very stressful time in this country.
Do you feel like the flag has been important to you? Is that why you got interested in this project?
Well, the reason I did this is because after September 11th, I mean, had flags sent to me from all over the country. And to me, it was a healing thing. It was a collective hug. It was a sign of unity. And that's kind of why I did this. Because over the last 4 years, I haven't really felt that when I see the flag. I felt like it was kind of being co-opted to mean something else.
To be only on one side rather than... Okay.
And so that's kind of why I did it, because it was very, very sad to me. It was like, wait a minute, I'm looking at a flag now differently. What happened? And a lot of people that we interviewed feel the same way. We've interviewed some older people that one woman was her family was Holocaust survivors, and they talked about coming to this country with the flag being a beacon of hope. And then all of a sudden, they're hanging flags in front of their house every day, which they've always done. And then they felt like that they were going to be looked at differently, possibly, because they had a flag up. You know, we ask a lot of people that question. I mean, like, if I asked you, like, what do you think the flag means to you right now? What would you say?
So, I mean, when you've been talking about the flag, the first thing that came to my mind is that my dad and his twin brother were born on June 14th, which is Flag Day. A lot of people don't know that, but that I did. I grew up knowing that. And it was like an exciting thing to them. They always put the flags out in front of their houses, and it was this positive celebration. They like to say, see, we're celebrating the country and us, and they're funny, so they were always joking about that. And yeah, it does feel different now than it did as I grew up. It does feel like the flag belongs to somebody else, and not so much to me or, you know, my family, the way that we thought it did growing up, that it was part of everybody's story and our story. Now it feels like maybe it's not our story at all.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we've interviewed a lot of African Americans too, you know, and often they say that, you know, some of them were veterans, but they said they didn't always feel the flags was for them, you know, for what they've gone through. It's a lot of different questions answers from a lot of different people, and your answer right there, you know, is indicative of some kind of change in maybe how people view it.
So, Films on Purpose is a group that I know you had a lot to do with. Can you talk about that a little bit and what your vision is for that?
Sure. Well, Films on Purpose was an idea I had about, you know, really bringing people together through film, through documentary film. And Claire Schiffman and Kathleen Williamson and Helen Muir, and there's a whole bunch of us together with it right now. Lori Drillock, Anjali Sarkoff. And we have a group of women that try to find films that mean something, that spark conversation. We've had about, I think, 18 films already. Wow. And what's so wonderful about it is I know that the Presbyterian Church is helping us, you know, make this happen, and we greatly appreciate that. We've had quite a couple of films with you, and you're sponsoring us. And what's great about it is people that don't ordinarily might not think of a certain topic in a certain way get to participate, and, you know, we usually have panels afterwards with experts on them that can talk about the issues and have people ask questions, because you might not have ever thought about what we showed you, you know, one way or the other. And I think it opens up a conversation.
Well, and I know that the work you've done along the way has been recognized. You've gotten to go to all these different conferences and festivals. And what has that been like for you?
I tell you, I love going to some of these film festivals. The last one I went to was in Sedona. And that was just lovely. And you meet all filmmakers, you meet creative people, you know, you meet my friends Beth and George Gage that helped me with my first film. Their new film was in that festival too, so we got to go together. And then my film was in it. And it's a great atmosphere. You get connected, you know, sometimes you can get your film, you know, seen by somebody that'll, you know, distribute it for you. That didn't happen on this one for me. But it's great. And now I was in quite a few more festivals after that, but they've all been online, which is
Which is that's fun.
It's kind of sad, like the Harlem Film Festival I was in, Socially Relevant Film Festival, San Antonio Film Festival, Piermont. Yeah, but it's not
a different experience. Yeah,
but it's a different experience.
So, Andrea, thank you so much for talking to us today. And
thanks for having me.
I'm really glad that you could meet with us. I'm wondering if people want to know more about what you're doing or to follow what you're doing, how would they find you?
Well, I guess they could follow me on Facebook. Right now, we do not have an official site, which we probably should, be working on for this new project. And I'll try to make some announcements on Facebook, and maybe, finally get a site on Instagram and Facebook for this project.
Great, thank you. So thank you so much for coming today to have this conversation. Absolutely. This has been Everyday Spirituality with Connect.Faith. If this is a conversation you want to share with a friend, you're welcome to do that. And you can find us in all the places you find your podcasts.